This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Spoiler number one is Dr. Lee frowns. It stinks.
What is going on? What is going on?
Episode 118, Submission 843, Ernie Anderson. Now, guys, over the course of the first 117 episodes, we've brought up here and there about the man, the myth, the legend, Ernie Anderson, for his great work at ABC over the years as a voiceover artist. But now, guys, it's finally time to give this man his well-justified due.
We're about to do the deep dive into the life and times of Ernie Anderson and how he sounds so sexy for ABC with that sweet, clog your arteries, buttery cholesterol baritone of his.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Greg, Ernie Anderson started off actually in Massachusetts. He was born November 12th of 1923 in Boston, but grew up in Lynn, Massachusetts. His parents were Emily and Ernest. So he's like an Ernie Jr. Ernest is, nickname, or Ernie's nickname for Ernest. Now, Ernie's original plan was to go to law school, but he was born in 23, and, well, when he got to college age, there was a little something going on called World War II. So he joined the U.S. Navy, and he did that actually to avoid being drafted. Now, his son is Paul Thomas Anderson, and I'm sure Chico and Greg can talk about films that he's directed over the years.
Yeah, Boogie Nights, Punch Drunk Love with Adam Sandler, and of course, There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis.
I drink your milkshake! I drink it up!
All the classics.
Yeah, I mean, there's some popular names in there. Paul Thomas Anderson said this, and this is a quote about his dad's military service. He, Ernie, was in the Navy, stationed mainly in Guam. I don't think he did any fighting. I think he was trying. He was fixing airplanes and knew just where the beer was stashed and played the saxophone in bands and stuff like that. You know, every picture I have of him shows a beer in his hand. Every single picture from the war he's got. So he was pretty good about probably finding ways to get out of fighting. But again, we never really talked that much about it. So Ernie was trying to find the easy way out, but he was still doing enough to not get discharged. He was stationed in Guam for the Navy, fixing planes, but he obviously had ample amount of time on his hands for extracurriculars, if you will. And today I learned, back in World War II times, Guam had beer. Well, I wonder if that was a ration back in the day.
I don't know, but hey, now you can say you knew something that you didn't know when you woke up this morning.
Ernie Anderson enjoyed beer. I just learned that today.
I always thought that Ernie Anderson enjoyed cigarettes more than beer because every picture I have of him has a cigarette in his hand.
Oh,
which is odd. It's just odd when you consider what his job is. I mean,
well, but also at the same time, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So after World War II ended, Ernie attended Suffolk University, and he became a disc jockey in Montpelier, Vermont. Today I learned that Montpelier, Vermont had a radio station. Well, it's such a small town. I mean, it's the smallest.
It's the only state capital without a McDonald's. We know this.
Yeah, it's also, I think, the state capital with the smallest population. I think it's only like 8,000 or so, at least as of nowadays. Ernie worked a lot of the Northeast, New England area. He worked in Albany. He worked in Providence. But in 1958, he made his big move to Cleveland and joined the radio station WHK, which is still in existence today, even though it's not as big as it was, say, even, let's say, 40 years ago or 30 years ago. It's still around, but it's not terribly popular.
Yeah,
At least not in my household. But
was that one of the classic AMs of Cleveland radio?
Oh, yeah, that was one of the classic AMs of Cleveland radio, yes. Yeah. And, there's a number of them, and, well, that would be a separate podcast called It Was a Thing on the Radio Dial. So what happened is in late 1958, Ernie Anderson was let go because his persona didn't fit a new format, a top 40 format that WHK switched to. And obviously, again, that was big in the 50s. You know, if you had top 40, you got
the modern sound. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to play Elvis, and you got to play Buddy Holly and the Crickets, and you know the music from the 50s. And according to Tim Conway, and we're going to get into Tim Conway a lot more in this episode. He has a big role in this entire saga. Ernie was at the WHK Christmas party in 1958 telling a long, elaborate joke, and just as he's about to deliver the punchline, his boss cuts in and says the punchline. And Ernie looks at him and says, "Why did you do that?" And the boss says, "I anticipated it." So Ernie said, "Anticipate this," and tells him, "Beep yourself." Imagine what goes in with the beep. Needless to say, Ernie Anderson got fired for that. Who knew you couldn't just tell your boss to beep off and not get fired?
I'm shocked.
I know.
This is my shocked face.
Yeah, I see that. Now, that was a good move in the end, obviously, because he became a television legend. But it started originally at KYW TV, which is now WKYC. And that's where he first collaborated with Tim Conway. They were on a show called Ernie's Place, but by mid-61, both Ernie Anderson and Tim Conway moved to the then CBS affiliate and now Fox affiliate, WJW-TV.
Rest in peace, Dick Goddard.
Yeah, and in case you don't know who he is, legendary weatherman who just died within the last, I'd say, probably about 4 or 5 months. And so what they did is they hosted a local morning movie show called Ernie's Place, which included live skits and comedy bits. And what happened is Ernie told WJW's management that he was a director for the program, even though really Tim Conway lacked any sort of qualifications. So Tim Conway lost his director's role because he was not qualified. And several other staffers, including at that point a young technician named Chuck Shadowski. And we'll talk about him a little bit later. He actually has a role in this too. They were called in to assist with the direction. And Tim was actually, he was canned. He was let go.
Oh.
Yeah, but the thing is, without his comic foil, Ernie's Place was canceled. But there's a positive to this. WJW management soon offered Ernie Anderson the role of a late Friday night schlock movie host type of position. Well, not really a schlock movie host, more like the movies were schlocky. Excuse me for getting my Yiddish on. It was a local incarnation of shock theater, and this actually is where Ernie Anderson really grew in popularity. So starting in 1963, so we're about a year and a half after Ernie's Place started, Ernie Anderson hosted shock theater, but he had an alter ego called Ghoulardi.
They will all be there, Drew. You won't believe. Hey, listen, gang. What do you think of the movie so far, huh? Hey, really bad. Where's the art wig over there? Give me a fast cop of the art wig. Don't go away. Stick with Ghoulardi. It's awkward time. Oh, listen. Is this good? Is this good? Hits by Bob Wenger. Is that beautiful? That's done in Earl. Good. Hang that down, director. Here's another snappy one done by Kevin Wondrak. Kid's only 13 years old. It's done. You hold your camera still, and I'll do this bit. See, we'll get... Oh, come on. Here we go with it. Beautiful, Keith. You do nice work. There's another snappy one by Kevin. All right, let's go through... Oh, this is good. The real Ghoulardi. The whole world's a purple kniff. Now, if you'll pan down, you'll see the real Ghoulardi. That's beautiful work. What's his name? It's not on it. Too bad, kid. You lose.
And Ghoulardi was not your typical B-movie host. He wasn't dressed up as a vampire, think like Elvira, or he wasn't dressed up like some goofy character, some creepy character. He was really dressed up as like a hipster type. And you wouldn't expect somebody who looked like a hipster to be a movie host, but he found his niche. He mocked the films that he was hosting and used beatnik slang during the movies and in the little comedic bits that ran during commercials or before commercials. And sometimes they'd add in sound effects or goofy music or just music in general in place of the audio track of the movie. And using chroma key technology like green screen, Ghoulardi would sometimes put himself into the film, which, WJW usually would use that for, well, it says here art cards. I'm sure they probably sometimes used it for weather. I know back in the day, that's what WJW did, was for the weather. They'd chroma key Dick Goddard, going back to that name that we just tossed out a few moments ago. There'd be some chroma key action there. And one thing that he apparently loved was firecrackers, which firecrackers and fireworks, at least fireworks are illegal here in Ohio. And at the time, firecrackers were illegal, but he'd blow up apples, he'd blow up leftovers, he blew up model cars, he blew up statues, and viewers actually used to send him stuff to blow up on the air.
So he would actually blow the stuff up on air.
Yeah, he was sort of like...
he was basically
Gallagher.
Mythbusters before Mythbusters was Mythbusters.
Okay, I was going to say he was sort of like a mix between Mythbusters and Gallagher. But yeah, I mean, he was basically Mythbusters before Mythbusters. Boy, try saying that 5 times fast. And one thing that, like I said, that was revived from Ernie's Place, that was kept in Ghoulardi's Shock Theater, was comedy sketches and skits. And one of the people that took part in a lot of the skits was Tim Conway. However, Tim Conway had moved on to Los Angeles and become a big TV star, because at that point he was on McHale's Navy. So that's where Chuck Stadowski actually comes into play. He was sort of the second banana to Ghoulardi in skits. And again, we will actually revisit Chuck Stadowski before the end of the show. And actually, Tim Conway would make the occasional cameo appearances for the program. So, you know, it's good that Tim didn't forget about his hometown, where he started, his good buddy, Ernie Anderson. And we're going to get to that a little bit later, because obviously at some point, Ernie Anderson's going to Los Angeles. Ghoulardi often made targets out of certain individuals, And one of the targets that he mocked openly often, and I believe there's footage of this somewhere, is Dorothy Fuldheim. Now, if that name doesn't ring a bell, you're very young and you're not acquainted with Cleveland television. So Dorothy Fuldheim, she was the first woman to anchor a TV news show in the United States, and this is back, I believe, in the late 40s. She worked on rival station in Cleveland, WEWS. I'm not even joking, probably for at least, I'd say, 35 to 40 years. She worked, I think, almost until her dying day, because she passed away in 1989, and I remember her being on the air still around like 85, 86. And at that time, talking about like mid-'80s, Dorothy Fuldheim would have been probably in her early 90s.
Wow.
And she was still doing the occasional commentary for WWS. But what she's really known for, like I said, she was the first woman to anchor a TV news show in the United States. Dorothy Fuldheim was known for some very controversial opinions at the time, and she wasn't shy about showing her displeasure for anybody that she didn't necessarily agree with. For example, Jerry Rubin, who is, that Jerry Rubin.
That Jerry Rubin?
Well, yeah, he was an activist back in the 60s. Started to ask Dorothy Fuldheim if she drank, and she answered, "I have the best damn liver in Cleveland." I disagree. I've never drank and never had a drink, and I got a damn fine liver probably. And then he took a picture of a nude woman and showed it to her.
Oh.
Yeah. Fuldheim responded by asking Rubin, "How is this photo germane to the topic?" He then referred to the police as pigs. Oh, and that set her off. Don't call the cops pigs in front of Dorothy Fuldheim. And she replied, "I've got a shock for you. Some of my friends are policemen." Rubin then said, "Well, I've got a shock for you. I'm good friends with the Black Panthers." Uh-oh, stuff's getting real. And at that point, Dorothy Fuldheim threw his book and kicked Rubin off the set, saying, "Out, stop the interview." And cameras got all this. Footage of this is occasionally shown, and by occasionally, I should say like almost rarely, but I've seen it on television maybe once every 10 years or so. Usually like when WWS has its anniversary and they talk about some of their past personalities and past TV shows that they hosted. Usually Dorothy Fuldheim's name comes up there, and they show that clip. So it does exist. It's, again, from the late 60s. And, she was a fiery old bag. Excuse me.
Wow.
Well,
such language, Mike.
Well, again, how do I remember her from the late 70s and early 80s? I remember her as a crotchety old woman. Just my opinion. And also, I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry about anything. We're just going to continue. Goulardi did not like her at all. Hey, maybe for the same reason I didn't care for her, because as a 5-year-old, she had this fiery red hair, and she was always yelling and criticizing people and stuff. Yeah,
she was basically the moral authority.
Well, the thing is, she was held in a high standard at WWS. High standard. I mean, again, she had been at the station, at least during when Goulardi was on, probably for 15 years at that point. Since like I said, the late 40s. And she was nothing short of legend for her work at WWS.
There's even a drunk history sketch about her.
Yes, there is a drunk history sketch about her. Yes, you're absolutely right. On the episode titled, surprisingly, Cleveland. Yeah, Goulardi didn't care for her. He mocked her openly every week, usually referring to her as Dorothy Baby. And their mutual on-air jibes created what viewers considered a battle of the Beatnik and the Empress of Ohio News.
Wow.
Yeah, it makes sense. there were a number of running gags that happened on not just Ghoulardi's show, but the shows that lived on after it. And we'll get to those shows that lived on after it. One of the things that was a common theme in the 60s and 70s, and even into the 80s, was making fun of certain ethnic people. And what we mean by certain ethnic people is primarily people of the Polish persuasion. And specifically, there was, and this was a very popular segment within the show called Parma Place. Parma is, at the time, was heavily ethnic, let's say that. But also it was making fun of the popular soap opera of the time, Peyton Place. However, Parma Place, even though it became a big hit, the use of ethnic jokes sort of forced the hand of Parma's officials, and they called and complained to management of WJW about that. The station decided to cancel it at that point. However, the publicity from the whole Parma Place incident and the full-time rivalry, Ghoulardi was at his popularity at this point. And how popular was he? This isn't even a joke. He had a 70 share in Cleveland for ratings. 70 share going up against Carson? That's unheard of. Yeah. So 70% of TVs were watching Ghoulardi at the time. Only 30% were watching Carson on Friday nights at this time in the mid-60s. But also, another little side effect of Ghoulardi's popularity, crime among teenagers decreased on Friday nights by 30%.
Because everybody was watching Ghoulardi.
Exactly. Specifically, again, we're talking about teenage crime. So teenagers were big into it, and I know I've talked to my dad about this because my dad would have been in that age range at that point. Oh yeah, Ghoulardi was the man. He was the thing to watch on Friday nights in the mid-'60s. And he and his posse, let's say, were so popular, they actually created a Ghoulardi All-Stars sports team, which went to different places and played different teams for charity. So think about, playing the Parma police station, let's just say, for example. And that garnered a lot of attention too, obviously good attention because it's for charity. But Ghoulardi was at his peak at that point. And then here's where Tim Conway comes back into play. In the 60s, with some help from Tim Conway, Ernie Anderson went to Hollywood to shoot a TV pilot, and he used footage from the audition and films from his trip on his TV show, which was very weird for local television back in 1966. He permanently left Cleveland in summer of 1966. Shock Theater, under that name at least, ended in October of 1966, and the Ghoulardi name was retired, at least from a television purpose. So what happened, you have Tim Conway and you have Ernie Anderson now in Los Angeles. You have Chuck Shadowski, there's that name again, and weatherman Bob Wells, who was called Houlihan the Weatherman. They hosted the show Houlihan and Big Chuck. And the Houlihan and Big Chuck show actually ran from late 66, December 23rd of 66, all the way until 1979. And then in 1979, John Rinaldi, who was a jeweler, and he actually had, not has, but within the last couple of years, I think it closed down, had a jewelry store in downtown Cleveland, not terribly far from Progressive Field. I think it was less than maybe 500 feet away. And he had been sort of like a featured player. He now was elevated to a full-time status, and the show was renamed Big Chuck and Little John because John Rinaldi was very short. I'd say he was like Well, he's still with us. I'd say John Rinaldi was probably about 4'6", definitely under 5 feet tall. So he was a very short person. He is a very short person. He still hasn't died. And Big Chuck, I mean, he's reasonably tall. He's like 6'2" or so. So I got at least an inch on him. Sorry, Big Chuck. Big Chuck. But that show unfortunately died. Oh gosh, at this point, it's probably been 20 years. It's probably been since the late 90s, maybe early 2000s.
Wikipedia says the show ended on June 17th in 2007.
Oh my gosh, I didn't think it lasted that long, but also at the same time, I wasn't openly looking for it after about 2000. But even though Big Chuck and Little John, with the movies, they actually used to show movies and skits before and after commercials. Even though that's done, it still lives on today. Every Sunday night at 11:30 p.m., they show a compilation of their old skits, including sometimes they show Ghoulardi skits, and sometimes they show Bob Wells' Houlihan skits. But generally, it's Big Chuck and Little John. But again, it's like a half an hour of nostalgia. But enough about the different variations or the continuations of shock theater after Ernie Anderson left.
I just wanted to say one thing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I remember Little John because he was in that Jeopardy pizza pan ad.
Yes, he was. Yes, Little John, it's on YouTube. He was on, oh my gosh, Pizza Pan is a relic. That hasn't been around for at least 10 years. He was on a Pizza Pan ad, which was a spoof of Jeopardy.
But I remember this.
Yeah. How do you guys remember it? Did somebody show you it?
You showed us that like 10 years ago.
Oh my gosh, it's been 10 years, and I'm supposed to remember that. Okay. But I'm sure that's still on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, going back to Ernie's move to Los Angeles, he actually starred in a short-lived comedy. Oh, this may not necessarily be on the list at some point, called Rango, not to be confused with the movie from 10 years ago. That show not only had Ernie Anderson on it, but it also starred Tim Conway. So there's your collaboration again. Tim Conway, Ernie Anderson, back together, and it feels so good.
Oh,
and
but yes.
They collaborated on a comedy act and appeared together on Hollywood Palace and actually released 2 comedy albums. But then in 1974, that is, Ernie Anderson replaced Lyle Wagner as the announcer on the Carol Burnett Show. And remember, that's where Tim Conway was as a recurring guest on that show before he became a regular performer. So again, they're reunited, and it feels so good. And actually, if you watch the Carol Burnett channel on Pluto TV, when I was hospitalized, they did show an episode where Ernie Anderson was shown on camera, and actually he was in the audience. So you get a look at Ernie Anderson. Not that they're all terribly rare, but just if you want to see Ernie Anderson, he was on an episode of the Carol Burnett Show sometime between, say, 74 and I'm going to guess he was probably gone by about 76, maybe 77 at the latest. So Ernie Anderson failed as an actor for a number of reasons. He had a show that failed. And actually his son said that he was a horrible actor, and even looking at home movies, he was a bad actor in those. And Paul Thomas Anderson said that his family would be like, "You effer, no wonder you couldn't get any jobs."
Whoa. Just whoa.
Well, I mean, okay, some people can't act, so you find a way to work your way in the business. Ernie admittedly said that he had lifelong difficulty memorizing stuff. So, if you can't memorize the lines, you're not going to be a good actor. He went behind the microphone when Fred Silverman, there's another Fred Silverman mention. made Ernie Anderson the voice of ABC. And gosh knows, we heard Ernie Anderson's voice enough in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. Boy, where had we heard him? We said The Love Boat. He was known for saying,
"This is ABC."
For the network ID and stuff like that.
There are actually supercuts of him saying, "This is ABC."
Oh, I'm absolutely sure of that. But also, he did a lot of recorded introductions for newscasts, including, oddly enough, WEWS in Cleveland, where Dorothy Fuldheim was.
When it comes to reporting events that surround our lives and shape our community, every second counts. That's why at TV5, the people you trust at 6 are up to the minute at 11. Ted Henry and Wilma Smith, committed to making the most of the news that matters to you. Because we realize the news doesn't end at 6. It's only just beginning. So before you turn in for the night, tune to Eyewitness News at 11, right here on Ohio's news channel, TV5.
Also, in addition to newscasts and ABC and The Love Boat, he was the announcer for, the first 6 seasons of America's Funniest Home Videos?
Yeah, the first 6 or 7.
He was. He was the guy that said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Saget."
But also he did voiceover for previews of new episodes of the first 3 seasons of, it always goes back to this show, Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yes!
Tonight, the 24th century begins.
Welcome to the Enterprise.
In a special world premiere movie, Star Trek The Next Generation.
Ready for departure, sir. Engage.
78 years have passed since the days of the original USS Enterprise. Now a new Galaxy Starship has been designed with a new team of highly skilled Federation explorers. Starfleet Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Commander Riker, Executive Officer, Chief Medical Officer Crusher, and her brilliant son, Wesley, Lieutenant Commander Data, an android, the telepathic Troy, Geordi, a man with unique vision, Security Officer Yar, and Klingon Officer Worf.
Shields and deflectors up, sir. Go to yellow alert.
Their first mission, investigate a new star base on planet Deneb 4.
Thou art directed to return to thine own solar system immediately.
A hostile alien threatens the crew.
Now go back, or thou shalt most certainly die.
But they're determined to finish their mission.
Arm half photon torpedoes. Place them on ready status.
Hostile is now beginning to overtake us, sir.
Together, they stand trial before a merciless court.
You will now answer to the charge of being a grievously savage race.
Now, they have 24 hours to uncover the secrets of a strange world.
They're firing on far point, sir.
The classic legend begins an all-new adventure.
Let's see what's out there.
Star Trek, The Next Generation.
In addition to all the aforementioned shows and doing news introductions and ABC work, we mentioned previously that Ernie Anderson announced for Break the Bank, the syndicated version back in 1976 and 77.
I believe we have a clip.
But
of these boxes will break the bank, worth over $10,000 in prizes. Is this one of them? Or is it this one? Or this one? We'll find out in a moment in this game of hide and seek as these 9 celebrities. That's my mama's Clifton Davis. From Happy Days, Anson Williams. Singer-comedian J.P. Morgan. From Marcus Welby, Elena Verdugo. Comedy star Joey Bishop. It's Canon William Conrad. The magical Barbara Eden. From Maud, Hermione Baddeley, Mr. T and Tina's Pat Morita. All join us in playing Break the Bank. Now meet our host, Jack Barry.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Break the Bank.
But also, in addition, how about this? In terms of animation, he did voices. He did the opening introductions, the opens to a couple of shows, including The Adventures of Super Mario Brothers 3.
Oh, yes! I do remember him doing the voiceover for that.
Yes!
But do you remember this? He narrated the first 2 shorts of the Powerpuff Girls on the What a Cartoon show.
What?
Okay, I did not remember that.
I'm not joking. He narrated the first 2.
He was Tom Kenny before Tom Kenny was Tom Kenny?
Pretty much. When it was, again, not as part of the cartoon, when it was its own independent cartoon, when it was part of the What a Cartoon show. If you remember that show.
Basically Cartoon Network's anthology series.
Yeah, that's where Seth MacFarlane got his start, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically like Cartoon Network sort of, you said anthology type of show.
Yeah.
It was a mishmash of, okay, if you enjoy this or watch this, we'll turn this into a real cartoon. Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us up, when we're talking about Powerpuff Girls, that brings us to 97. And unfortunately, 97 is the year that Ernie Anderson died, specifically February 6th of 1997. And we mentioned earlier about his smoking. And obviously, smoking gives you that very bass voice. I mean, you could tell a smoker based on the depth of their voice.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, sadly, Ernie died of lung cancer.
Of course.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when you smoke that long, it's just going to be a matter of time. And his voice was silenced, like I said, February 6th of 1997. But his legacy lives on. Even not necessarily nowadays, but for years after his death in 97, his voice could still be heard doing promotions for radio stations, TV stations. His voice was even on, and believe it or not, this is a thing, and we're not going to cover it because unfortunately I can't use it because I don't have a Windows 95 machine anymore. There was actually an America's Funniest Home Videos CD-ROM. And actually, back in the day, like 1996, when I first got a computer, I paid like $5 for it. It was a Sam's Club deal. It's like, okay, I can't really go wrong with this. I haven't touched it in 23 years, but if I ever find a Windows 95 machine, I'm going to fire it up. But apparently there's a lot of Ernie Anderson in there, at least introducing the CD-ROM.
Oh yeah, because I took this CD-ROM out from the library when it came out, like back in 96, 97. Yeah, Ernie's in there. And also you get plenty of Ernie in, now I had this as a kid, the America's Funniest Home Videos VCR game.
We got laughs from coast to coast to make you smile. A real light look at each of you to capture all that style. You're the red, white, and blue.
Welcome to America's Funniest Home Videos game. I'm Ernie Anderson. I introduce the show each week on television. So Parker Brothers asked me to introduce the game, featuring some of the funniest videos from the show with the original quips, wisecracks, and jokes from the show's host, Bob Saget. The first thing you probably did was drop this tape into your VCR without reading the directions. Don't feel too silly. Half of America did exactly the same thing. Now, I'll give you a brief overview of the game, but you have to promise to go back and read the rules before you play. Promise? Okay. America, this is you.
Oh my!
I remember that. I remember seeing that.
Man, I would have thought VCR games would have died by maybe 90 or so.
That game came out in 1990 at the very start of America's Funniest Home Videos popularity on ABC.
Oh my gosh, that's something. I'm sure, if you look hard enough, you can find it, but I had never heard of that until now. It's another thing that I learned today.
Well, Mike, we'll be covering that game at some point in the future because we have an episode of the podcast that's going to be devoted to VCR board games. So that'll be something to check out when we eventually do that topic.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. We'll definitely be talking about it with on VCR games. one final thing I want to mention before we wrap up the show is there's actually been an annual festival of sorts. It's more like a gathering, like an autograph show, almost like a Comic-Con type of thing, a local thing in Cleveland. Every year called Ghoulardi Fest. It didn't happen this year because, well, we know why it didn't happen. But they get sometimes decent celebrities. They get sometimes B-list celebrities who are on these movies back in the day. They always have Chuck Shadowski and Little John Rinaldi there. And it's been going on for, I'd say, at least a good 10, maybe even 15 years at this point. And actually, we were going to do this show sort of coinciding with it because Ghoulardi Fest is every October, usually early October, maybe a couple weeks before Halloween. But life happened, and we know why it didn't occur.
Yeah. And also one of the guests that was in last year's Ghoulardi Fest, I should mention, was Alison Ongram.
Yes, she was. Yes, she was.
The stone cold bitch from the prairie, yeah.
Well, and also, since everything goes back to Match Game Hollywood Squares.
Oh, she was on the first week.
She was on the premiere week.
And she was on quite a few weeks besides that.
Yes.
She let's just say Gene and John had her on speed dial, if speed dial was indeed a thing in 1983.
They had answering machines. They definitely had speed dial, presumably. And she was a hot tomato back in 83. I'm sorry.
Hold on. If we're going to do this, I need to do this right. I need to position my body straight and my head like 15 degrees to the left. She was a tomato. A stone-cold fox from the prairie.
She was a stone-cold fox from the prairie. I'm Tony Curtis.
I'm Tony Curtis.
Oh,
welcome.
That's staying in. That's staying in somehow.
Welcome to future installment, Hollywood Babylon.
Which Mike just told me about. It's amazing. I've been watching some of the terrible reenactments, and it's maybe the best, worst thing I've ever seen.
No regrets.
No regrets at all.
Well, that's the life and times of Ernie Anderson. Does anybody else have anything they need to add?
Well, I do have two things I want to add. First off, now, if you go on YouTube, now in 1983, Ernie appeared on Late Night with David Letterman. And you can actually find this appearance on the YouTube channel of Don Giller, who collects...
Who else besides Don Giller? Seriously.
Yeah, Don Giller, if you don't know who he is, Letterman superfan, has basically tons and tons of Letterman clips on his channel. So he has like an 8-minute appearance Ernie did on Dave's show back in 83. And it's incredible. He does the promo reads. He does these mock promo reads. And they talk about his time as Ghoulardi. It's great. And he also does the Love Boat.
Time for one more quick one here.
All right.
Dear Ernie, how about letting us hear that medley of ABC hits you did on your college tour? Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Foreman. A medley of your best announcements.
Oh, this is big stuff. How'd you wawa? Whoop! Yeah. Well, this is it. How'd you wawa? Whoop! Tonight, things you've never seen on That's Incredible. Then at 9, it's the Love Boat. Followed by a special 2020 report on wet T-shirt contests. Then, Jennifer goes undercover to model as a...
Oh, you're...
Two.
All right, one more.
Two. I'm allowed to take.
Sure you are.
Then, Jennifer goes undercover as a model on Heart to Heart. At 11, it's the Love Boat again. Followed by a recently discovered episode of The Winds of War.
All right.
Remember, That's Incredible, the Love Boat. 2020, Heart to Heart, and the Love Boat again. And The Winds of War.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We'll be right back.
But one other thing I wanted to mention before we wrap up. Now, I mentioned this to you guys. Now, this was brought to my attention. This was brought up by Joe Murata, who's the co-host of Our Vantage Point, the Retro Wrestling Podcast. And he actually found this, and I actually asked Joe, hey, Joe, do you have a clip of this tape somewhere? And he directed me to the YouTube link. Now, it's a promo, and we'll include it in the episode description at the end of the show on the episode on Podbean, for Wrestlemania 6. Now, the LA Coliseum was trying to bid for the right to host WrestleMania 6 for the WWF in 1990. And they got Ernie to narrate the promo video to entice the WWF to be interested in WrestleMania 6 at the LA Coliseum. And they had they had everything. They had like a ring here. They had Ernie saying, imagine 92,000 fans packed to the brim at the LA Coliseum to watch Hulk Hogan do battle.
Los Angeles, California, the sports and entertainment capital of the world. It is a city made up of 9 million people and a $100 billion buying power. Enough buying power to support 7 professional teams, 2 major collegiate powers, and the entire entertainment industry. Situated in the midst of LA is the most prestigious athletic and entertainment venue in the world, the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Built in 1923, the Coliseum has been a cornerstone in the history of the city and the nation. Since its inception, some 2,000 events, witnessed by 75 million fans, have happened at the Coliseum. Wrestlemania is ready to return to the West Coast, and this time to the only stadium in all of America that can hold this giant, the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Imagine 92,000 fans rocking and rolling as WrestleMania begins. As one, the crowd rises, waves their souvenirs in the air, and screams at the top of their lungs for the main event. As the champion's name goes up on the 30 by 50-foot message board, he comes running from the Olympic tunnel. Hollywood spotlights reflecting off him as he tears the shirt from his back. Like a caged tiger, his opponent paces the squared circle. Like modern-day gladiators, the warriors charge each other. The two meet with the clash of thunder and the energy of lightning. The largest video screen in America catches their every move. It's all security can do to control the surging crowds. And when the dust settles, on the same field that national championships were won,
Touchdown USA!
and Olympic dreams came true, the World Wrestling Federation legacy lives on.
It's a really incredible promo video. But the thing was, the WWF had already promised in 1990 that they were going to give WrestleMania 6 to the Toronto Skydome, which makes sense because Toronto Skydome would have come out in 89. It was the hot new building at the time. So the WWF decided, you know what? We'll give you WrestleMania at the LA Coliseum for 1991. But the problem was, okay, for the LA Coliseum, and this is a whole nother story, depending on who you believe, it was either because they didn't sell enough tickets to the LA Coliseum, or because of the Sergeant Slaughter Iraqi turncoat angle, that they decided, the WWF, that would be best to move the WrestleMania show for 1991 to the LA Sports Arena next door. So the LA Coliseum, unfortunately, did not get WrestleMania that year. Sad. Although, fingers crossed, depending on what happens with, the COVID vaccine and all, WrestleMania this year is actually scheduled for SoFi Stadium in LA in 2021. So
there you go.
Well, let's just hope the COVID vaccine is distributed so we can get to WrestleMania and have at least some fans there in the building.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he also, interesting thing, he also did, are you ready for this?
Ernie Anderson.
Ernie Anderson also did a guest shot in a Slappy Squirrel short on the original Animaniacs. Now, the clip on YouTube is just, it's it's the first half, but it's incomplete. But he ended it with a thing saying, "Now stay tuned for the Garden of Eden's funniest home videos." And up until we did this episode, I didn't even make the connection until we did this episode. Because around this time, he would be also announcing America's Funniest Home Videos. Because it's like, at first, here I am, 14 years old, watching the Animaniacs, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty cute. But then it's like, he's the announcer of America's Funniest. Oh, okay, now I get it.
That's the joke.
Yeah, that's the joke. I was today years old when I got the joke.
Well, some jokes are meant for kids and some jokes are meant for older people. And that's clearly one where, maybe some kids will get it, but older people who watch America's Funniest Home Videos, they got it.
Yeah.
Especially since everybody was watching America's Funniest Home Videos back in 1993.
Yeah, they wanted to see videos of people getting hit in the nuts with Bob Saget doing some funny narrations.
That's basically what America's Funniest Home Videos was and is. So, people getting hit in the crotch with various objects. But that's another episode.
Boy, I think on that note, we need to wrap it up.
Yes, Ernie Anderson. He can get you in the mood for a lighthearted humor or keep you in suspense for a heart-ripping drama, or even go deeper for event television like The Day After or America, which wasn't on ABC now that I think about it.
Yeah, it was. America with a K was on ABC. And in fact, America with a K is on the list. So that'll be a topic for this podcast on some other day.
And wait. Did you say The Day After?
No, that'll never be on the list.
It's definitely on the list.
We're not touching that, Mike. We are not touching that.
If both of you would be quiet, I was going to say we're going to mention The Day After probably in about a month or so.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I get you.
Oh, good.
But, okay, so if I could just wrap this up here.
Good, because I don't want to watch Jason Robards die of radiation poisoning.
Oh, come on, Craig!
Well, it happened in the movie.
Okay, so, Ernie Anderson. He was a thing on TV.
Wow!
Saturday, the Love Boat just might sink.
That's entertainment.
It's a Titanic 2-hour spectacular when Barbie Benton, David Birney, the Ropers Audra Lindley, Lola Falana, Dick Martin, and Donna Mills sail unawares into the funniest ocean disaster ever.
Hello. I thought we might have a little chat.
Goodbye. Is that little enough for you?
Is this the big kiss-off for the Love Boat?
After these messages, we'll be right back.
There's a new Pringle chip when you eat it, your hip. It's not butter and Bruce, it's not butter and Shoot. It's not butter and Larry, it's not butter and Gary. It's not butter and Herb, it's butter and Earth. For the taste you can't curb, new Pringles butter and Earth. With mild creamy butter, parsley and dill, and lots of tiny spices. Not butter and Mr. Bill. It's not butter and bread, it's butter and Earth. For the taste you can't curb, new Pringles butter and Earth.
Wednesday on CBS, The Bangles, Sting, Run DMC, The Judge, John Cougar Mellencamp, Stevie Nicks, Michael McDonald, U2, and more in an all-new holiday special. Santa Claus is rocking the town with Top of the Pops.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year!
A very special Christmas Wednesday.
Cut the post-holiday blues loose with Footloose. Saturday at 8, 7 Central and Mountain. Next, it's musical magic with those California raisins, caroling camels, waltzing walruses, and Herb and Rex on the all-new Claymation Christmas celebration.
Easy does it. The tree will get trimmed, the dinner will get cooked, and the gifts will get wrapped if you take your time instead of a drink or drugs. Remember, easy does it.
NBC presents its entertainment specials coming this fall. From Bob Hope in China to the beauties of the Rose Bowl and the best of country music. It's a thrill a minute. See why we're
Fishing proud as a peacock.
Bart and I are going to make you real happy. Right, Bart? Right, Phil. We're going to save you a lot of money. Right, Bart? Right, Phil. How? Whiz Bucks, Bart. Giant size savings from Nobody Beats the Whiz. Giant size savings, Phil? Over $2,000, Bart. TVs, camcorders, computers, audio components, cameras, cellular phones, music and movies. Just cut out the Whiz Bucks and save money. Right, Phil? Right, Bart. Whiz Bucks, a giant-sized way of saying nobody beats the Whiz.
Monday, don't miss a Charlie Brown Christmas with all the Peanuts gang and everyone's favorite beagle, Snoopy.
Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown!
Then it's up to a kindly clockmaker and some clever mice to make sure Santa comes to town on 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, Monday, right after Charlie Brown.
Wake up, toys, or you're gonna miss Christmas Eve with the Kodak disc. Someone got the family a Kodak disc. Just look at all the shots they're not gonna miss. There's never been a time that's better than this to give someone the Kodak disc.
Give someone the Kodak disc camera this Christmas, and if they don't think it's the easiest camera they've ever used, Kodak will give you your money back, money back.
So when you go out and shop, just remember to stop.
Get someone the Kodak disc.
On the Disney Sunday movie,
He's a solid 17-year-old state-of-the-art all-American boy.
a scientist has just come up with his greatest invention.
Hi, Dad.
Alan Thicke creates the ultimate kid, but he's not quite human someday.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
PlayStation Nation's JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have over 24 podcasts available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlayStation.com. We now offer them to you on two great feeds. On the PlayStation Nation Wrestling feed, we dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE to the glory days of yesteryear and the ins and outs of the territory days. In addition to our full-length shows, we also deliver to you special pod blasts on topics old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop feed is a veritable treasure trove of great content, offering tremendous shows covering the land of movies, television, life, comics, and sports, brought to you by the most knowledgeable and insightful folks in the podcast world.
You can find all these great shows, plus archives of our past podcasts from over the past 8 years as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while you're there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others, available on PlacementNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth search projects, and much more. Be sure to support our site by using www.PlacementNation.com/Amazon when doing your online shopping. We want to thank our friends at Boneheads, Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and HistoryOfWrestling.com as well. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. PlacementNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Episode 119, Submission 425, Davis Rules. Davis Rules aired on ABC and CBS from January 27th, 1991 to May 13th, 1992 for 29 episodes spanning 2 seasons.
Hit us with that harmonica.
You know who did the music for Davis Rules? You know who did like all the music, like the theme and the interstitials and stuff? Pride of Devo, Mark Mothersbaugh.
Yes, Pride of... he actually went to Kent State.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
he did.
Yes, he's a Kent State alum.
And
Not that I'm not a Kent State alum, but my sister was.
Yeah, and this would be around the same time that he was also doing the music for Rugrats.
Yes.
Yeah, he's really made a career out of TV music. I mean, Devo had a little time in the sun, but what else do most people know besides Whip It?
Yeah, not much.
Yeah.
I'm going through
And the Hats.
Yeah. And I'm going through Mark Mothersbaugh's filmography. He's done the music for Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yep. Yes.
Yep.
What We Do in the Shadows. And
yes.
And one and a certain other entry that we'll be covering next week. But he also did the music for The Last Man on Earth with Will Forte.
Nice.
Oh, wow. So needless to say, there is life after being a one-hit wonder.
It's not often that we cover a show that aired right after the Super Bowl, but that's what's about to go down right now.
Well, hold up, Chico. We did review Brothers and Sisters.
That did air after our Super Bowl, didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although, in fairness, I'm sure Scott Norwood was much happier after the game watching this than Jackie Smith was watching Brothers and Sisters.
True.
Okay. Wait, Scott Norwood blew the game. You think he'd be watching this and be happy?
No, he'd be at a bar getting drunk.
What bar in Tampa would be open after the Super Bowl?
He'd have to go to Pasco County, I'm afraid. That's a live PD joke. Anyway. Okay, so Davis Rules. It's a show about a principal played by somebody who you wouldn't think about when you hear the word principal or you think about what a principal stands for. That would be the rules, the regulations, laying down the law in school. Actually, you wouldn't even think about him nowadays except for being really crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just a little off kilter.
Yeah. I'm speaking, of course, of Randy Quaid.
Shitter's full.
Merry Christmas. Shitter's full.
It's a 1-year membership in the Jelly of the Month Club.
Oh, God.
Clark, that's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year.
Yeah, this would actually be after the Christmas Vacation came out, so he would still be riding the high off of that, and I'm guessing the networks would have been riding that same high, so they thought, hey, Randy Quaid is zany enough to be the straight-laced school principal, right? Well, they took a chance. What can I say? They took a chance. So, here's Randy Quaid, who actually looks... Oh my god. He looks I'm looking at a promo picture, and he doesn't look anything like Cousin Eddie. He looks like he had home training. His father looks more like Cousin Eddie than he does. His father, by the way, played by the late, great Jonathan Winters.
And folks, if you don't know who Jonathan Winters is, and we say this about everybody on this podcast, but especially this time, if you don't know who Jonathan Winters is, what podcast are you listening to?
Yeah, so, Davis Rules, you had Randy Quaid and Jonathan Winters, sort of like nothing in common, except a bloodline. By the way, nothing in common, that's a feature entry.
Wait, the movie?
No, the TV show based on the movie.
There was a TV show based on nothing.
There was a TV show based on the movie, Greg!
Wow.
So here's basically the log line of Davis Rules is widowed elementary school principal gets help from his dad raising his 4 kids.
And his dad is a little, I used the term earlier, a little off kilter.
Like I said, his dad is more like Cousin Eddie than Randy Quaid is.
He was very bizarre. He
was bizarre.
He was very wacky.
he was the wacky Pappy. He is wacky Pop.
Yes.
And again, here's Dwight Davis, played by Randy Quaid, as a very straight-laced sort of guy, and
he's a school principal. Yeah.
he's got to be. He's a school principal. He's got to be straight-laced.
Yeah, we have codes of ethics and stuff like that.
So what could I say about this show except, okay, we have the father, we have the grandfather, but we have to have kids, right? Well, we do have kids. All right. Now, follow me, because I'm about to go over the cast here, but there is, some changeover between the ABC run and the CBS run. We mentioned the kids. There are 4 kids. Trevor Bullock plays Robbie Davis. Luke Edwards, who, if you remember, played Jimmy on The Wizard, played Charlie Davis.
California.
Nathan Watt played Ben Davis. Now, those were the 3 kids in the first season. So, in between the time ABC canceled it and the time CBS picked it up, Trevor Bullock left the series, and there's a hole in the cast. In comes Bonnie Hunt as, I believe it is Dwight's sister, or sister-in-law.
Yes, his sister.
It's his sister, Gwen Davis. That's just weird. It was already weird when you consider that Gunny Davis is still there.
It's Jonathan Winters. He's not going anywhere.
No, he's
Yeah.
And honestly, why would he? But let's go to the school in Season 1, because there are some people who were only there for Season 1, and among them were Patricia Clarkson as Cosmo Jurgen.
Wait, that Patricia Clarkson?
Yes, that Patricia Clarkson. Yeah, you didn't think she did lowbrow comedy, but here she is. Then there's Rigoberto Jimenez as Rigo Cardona. And for the life of me, I can't find another credit for this guy.
Yikes. Yeah, that looks like this is his only work, or at least only work worth mentioning. He's got nothing on his IMDb.
Well, he did do American Me, and one episode of he was very active during the early 1990s, because he did American Me with Edward James Olmos, and he did one episode of Melrose Place, and yeah, that was pretty much it. And then you have Mrs. Elaine Yamagami, played by Tamayo Otsuki, who was actually in one of the CBS Summer Playhouse pilots.
I'm guessing it wasn't The Infiltrator.
No, it was not The Infiltrator.
Oh.
Sorry. But perhaps you remember her best for her role as Korean woman in Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood.
Oh my gosh.
What a classic. It should have won 8 Oscars.
The soundtrack is amazing.
I can't believe we've actually mentioned that movie on this podcast. I never thought we'd do that.
Well, I thought you were going to say, I can't believe you said that movie should have won 8 Oscars, which it should have, by the way.
It really should have. And then you have Deborah Mooney as Mrs. Rush. Of course, Deborah Mooney, known for recurring roles in Scandal, Grey's Anatomy, and The Originals. Also on future installments Kirk and Dream Street. If you don't know what those shows are, that's okay. Neither do we. And rounding out the cast of his co-workers is Mrs. Higgins, played by... Are you ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready for this.
Are you sitting down, Greg?
Yes, I'm sitting down.
Mike, are you ready for this? Can your heart take it?
Oh, I'm already sitting, but there's other reasons.
I didn't ask that. I'm asking if your heart can take it.
I think I can take it.
Deborah Jo Rupp.
Whoa!
Eric Foreman's mother.
Eric Foreman's mother.
So we talked about Eric Foreman's mother, And eventually one day we'll talk about Eric Foreman's father in future installment, The New Adventures of Beans Baxter.
Yeah, dumbass. Now, at the end of season 1, we would say goodbye to Patricia Clarkson, Rigoberto Jimenez, and Deborah Jo Rupp. But we would add, of course, Bonnie Hunt, but we would also add perennial teen heartthrob actor extra add-on Giovanni Ribisi.
Oh gosh, what wasn't he on back in the day?
What wasn't he on back in the day?
Yeah, and also, Mike, he's in Donruss Americana.
Yes, he is. He's in Donruss Americana.
He is?
Yes, he's in the Donruss Americana card set.
Okay, now before we get to the episodes, I actually have a, quote, in-canon explanation as to what happened. What happened to the oldest son and his friend between season 1 and season 2?
Let me guess. He went to the same spaceship Chuck Cunningham went to at the end of season 2 of Happy Days.
No, nor was he made an example of by the Philly Mafia, so don't ask. They were actually written off as foreign exchange students. I suppose you could make a less plausible explanation for that.
Oh my god.
You couldn't write that he got sent to military school or something?
No, because you would actually have to show the military school. Foreign exchange students?
No, you could send him to a military school like cross country. You don't even have to see the actual school.
That is true. And as for Skinner's sudden appearance...
Skinner?
His parents were archaeologists in Latin America, and Dwight became his legal guardian.
What?
Yeah. Exactly. This was basically a masterclass in how are we going to explain all of these changes. Interestingly enough, the show did garner a couple of Emmy nominations, so it wasn't that bad.
And actually, Jonathan Winters won Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series.
Yes!
And of course, it airing after the Super Bowl, you know it got ratings to start out with.
Oh, it got eyes, definitely.
I'm just wondering what the hell happened afterwards.
Well, Chico, now that I look back at it, at least on ABC, it aired on Tuesday nights normally.
Oh.
And Tuesday nights, you know what was on Tuesday nights on ABC back in 1991.
That would be the Roseanne show.
Yeah, so you know what I'm thinking?
It couldn't hold Roseanne's audience.
But it's like you're reading my mind. Absolutely. So I'm guessing that a vast majority or a good percentage of Roseanne's audience didn't stick around for the comedic antics of Randy Quaid and Jonathan Winters.
Okay. If you thought this show was an exercise in believability, are you ready for this?
Okay.
This was the episode this was the pilot. This was the episode that aired after the Super Bowl.
Okay,
This set the tone.
This is what set the tone. This is after Scott Norwood went wide right, and it's okay. The Super Bowl's over. Okay, what an exciting game. Now let's get into Davis Rules.
Yes. Yes, by the way, Whitney Houston. Epic. Epic.
And I'm sure everyone is so excited because the night before they watched Tag Team. So everyone's like, okay, we saw this great pilot with Roddy Piper and Jesse Ventura. We saw an amazing Super Bowl. What's going to happen next here on ABC?
And also, we should mention Whitney Houston's national anthem. We'll be talking about it at some point next year.
Oh, we're going to finally talk about that next year.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully.
Oh, yes.
Here's the details on the pilot episode. It's called A Man for All Reasons.
Because get it? A Man for All Seasons.
That's the joke.
I know.
The teachers and staff of his school vote a reluctant Dwight Davis into the principal's chair. So immediately we're thinking, Dwight Davis is a fish out of water, trial by fire principal.
Yeah, because he doesn't want this job.
He's like, he didn't want this job. He didn't ask for the job. Why did you give him the job?
He specifically said, I don't want to be the principal. And the staff were like, who cares? We're going to make you the principal.
Wait, I need to chime in. In what school district do the teachers and staff vote in somebody to be principal?
Welcome to 1991, Mike.
Okay, I don't get it because, every principal I've worked with had to apply like anybody else. They weren't just voted in, picked by teachers and staff.
Well, Mike, wouldn't you like to be voted in as a principal?
Now you see...
Say no. Say no, Mike. Say no.
Well, hold on. People have actually said I'd be a good principal, but the thing is I don't want to be a principal.
I get that at the same time. It's like, you would make a good laboratory supervisor. I'm like, I would make a good supervisor, but you know what else? But you know something? I don't wanna. It's like, you should apply for the laboratory supervisor job. I was like, I should, except for one thing. I don't wanna. That's basically the quandary that Dwight Davis finds himself in.
Yeah, I mean, some of us like teaching and don't necessarily want to ascend the ladder for various reasons.
Mm-hmm. Okay, episode 2, which would have aired, of course, in its regular Tuesday night slot after Roseanne, which it couldn't hold the audience, so... Rules of the game. Romance-based stir between Dwight and the algebra teacher he hires to tutor Robbie.
Ooh!
Yeah. So already we're starting into the sitcom tropes. It's like, horny student, hot for teacher. What's a father to do? A father who, by the way, is also the principal at your high school.
'Cause that's not awkward at all.
That's not awkward at all. It's a little bit awkward. Episode 3, The Trouble with Woman. Ben is having trouble getting rid of a pest at school, but Big Brother Robbie is more than willing to step forward and stick up for the Davis family name. Sadly, I do not know what the trouble is. But I'm guessing because it's little Ben Davis, there's a bully involved. Episode 4, Guys and Dolls. Dwight's jealous when Gunny says he saw Cosmo with another man. Enrico serenades his dream girl, Debbie. This, by the way, would be the Valentine's Day episode, hence the romantic overtones. Episode 5, I'm going to screw this up so bad and I apologize. Pomahak Day Massacre. Pomahak Day tradition demands that every request be honored. So Dwight gets stuck escorting an adoring student to a school dance. That's not awkward!
Oh, yeah. That's the last thing I want to do as a principal, is escort a student to the friggin' dance.
Remember, this is only 3 or 4 years before Mary Kay Letourneau. Episode 6. Yes, I'm the Great Pretender. Dwight becomes concerned with Charlie's nightly calls to Cosmo. Is Charlie looking for a new mom? Remember, Charlie is, if I'm not mistaken...
is played by Luke Edwards.
Yeah, he is the Luke Edwards.
So do you know where he was probably searching for a new mother in?
California.
And why not Patricia Clarkson?
Oh yeah, I mean, come on. It's Patricia Clarkson.
Yeah. I mean, you could do a whole lot worse than Patricia Clarkson.
Also, do you know where he could hook up Randy Quaid and Patricia Clarkson in?
California.
I told you not to say it. Anywho, let's go to episode 7. Give me the ball. Robbie has the drive to play basketball. Unfortunately, he lacks the talent.
Yeah, that's my excuse too.
Well, you have the height advantage, Mike.
Yeah, but I don't have the talent.
Hey, if this episode was in like another 4 or 5 years, he'd be a Luke Longley type player.
Yep. Hey, let's give it up for the fat guy slam dunk. Episode 8, Twisted Sister. Dwight's sister comes for a visit and has an interesting proposition for the family. Can she convince them to leave town?
Yeah, I'm guessing this doesn't go well.
No, it probably doesn't. I'm guessing that that they're not successful in getting her to leave town anyway because, well, we still have a good 20 episodes left. So this is our first taste of Gwen Davis, and I'm guessing she takes after Gunny because she too is a little bit odd. Would you say odd, Greg?
Yes.
Okay, episode 9. Take this job and love it. Robbie rebels under the weight of being the principal's son. Told you it gets awkward. Ms. Higgins fights teacher stress. Also believable. This is probably one of the most believable episodes of the series. Because teacher stress is a real thing, and when you're the principal's son, it gets really, really awkward really, really quickly.
I do want to add that one guest on this show is Mina Kolb. She may not be well known for many things, but one thing that she did about 10 years later, she played Jeff Garland's mom on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Whoa! Really?
Yeah, I'm not joking. Jeff Garland played Jeff Green, and she's credited as Jeff Green's mother on, it looks like, at least 5 episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm between 2000 and 2002.
Well, how about that?
That's something.
Okay.
And she's still with us at the age of 94.
Oh, thank goodness.
Thank
so there's a double bonus.
Okay, episode 10, Sign of the Times. Rigo and Robbie want to join Dwight's poker game. Will he stoop to let them? So apparently Dwight has standards, and Rigo and Robbie do not. Episode 11, Habla Español. Robbie makes a new friend who turns things upside down. Meanwhile, a new student upsets the Spanish teacher.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
Ay caramba.
Santa Monica!
Wrong show.
Santa Maria!
Yeah, Santa Barbara. What is this? The Surf Report?
Oh, boy. Past Century Condo, by the way. Past Century Condo. Episode 12, Mission Improbable. Who's fooling who? Dwight tries to trick Gunny as he plans a birthday party, but Gunny has some tricks of his own.
And I should mention, Chico, this is the second appearance on the show of Bonnie Hunt as Gwen Davis.
Interesting guest star on this episode. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
Angela Watson. Watson?
Don't know who that is.
You don't know Karen Foster from Step by Step?
Oh, that person. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know she wasn't in much after.
Listen, she was no Stacy Keenan, so.
Is anyone Stacy Keenan?
No.
Anybody?
No.
Not even Christine Lakin is Stacy Keenan, and Christine Lakin is awesome.
Yeah, she's a real one.
She's a real one. And the season finale, and also the series finale as far as ABC is concerned, Soap. Charlie bets on how long he can avoid taking a shower. Oh, God. Yeah, that's worth a cancellation.
Why?
Dwight wants to confront a journalist, and Gunny seeks romance.
Ooh.
At this point, they're like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just do this episode.
Yeah, I don't know if Brandon Stoddard was still with ABC in 1991, but I bet he probably watched this episode and said to himself, screw it!
Well, I do want to mention 2 people on this episode. One isn't necessarily a name, but he's going to come up sometime in the future because this is definitely on our list. Kelly Connell portrayed, and I'm not even joking about this, Ulysses S. Grant on future installment The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer.
What?
Oh my god, I can't wait until we do that.
I'm just throwing that out there. But a bigger name playing Porter on this episode, Stephen Root.
Stephen Root? Bill
Stephen
Dotrieve!
Root!
Bill Dotrieve!
I'm talking about Bill Dotrieve, yes. Or Milton.
Or Jimmy James from News Radio.
Yeah.
Nice. And at this point, ABC's figured, yep, we've had enough. We could only bleed so many viewers from Roseanne. It's over. And CBS came in and said, oh, no, it's not.
Yeah, Howard Stringer's like, look, I know we've spent way too much money on Major League Baseball, but screw it. ABC wants to get rid of this show. Well, guess what? We're going to put it on our network, damn it.
Hey, this is the same network that put the Hollywood Game on.
This is the same network that gave Pat Sajak a late night slot.
So there you go. CBS, the network of many questionable decisions in the early 90s. Here's another one.
The Tiffany Network. Come on. It's the Tiffany Network.
Central Park West. And that other show with John Barrowman on it. Greg knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but sadly John Barrowman doesn't give us that immortal line that he does in Shark Attack 3. You know what I'm talking about, Chico.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. He doesn't give these a line with the same panache as, hi, Captain Jack Harkness. By the way, I'm looking forward to that episode of Doctor Who.
The New Year's Day episode, yeah.
Yes, I am. But let's talk about Season 2 on CBS, which launched December 30th, 1991. In as much the same way as, I believe, it launched on ABC. Because the second episode aired, I'm not kidding, 2 days after the first.
What the... Would CBS have aired the first episode of Season 2 after a wild card game?
Probably.
I'm on the case. Hold on. Well, no.
Yeah, it's December 30th, 1991.
Yeah, let me double check. December 30th, 1991. That was a Tuesday. I'm sorry. December 30th, 1991 was a Monday.
Okay, so I'm guessing they put it on after Murphy Brown to get some of their viewers out.
They wanted to get those sweet Murphy Brown ratings.
Well, but also, December 30th, you're talking about the day before New Year's. Is anybody really watching at that point? Again, thinking it's New Year's, and I'm guessing Murphy Brown may have been in reruns at that point.
It might have been, but, people...
Well, yeah, because they're not generally showing new episodes over the holiday season. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't get the strategy. But then the weirder thing is, you said it aired 2 nights later, which is New Year's Day, and you're sure as heck no people aren't watching that day because...
They're either watching football or nursing hangovers.
Bingo bango, my friend. So, surely... This the second episode was going up against probably at least one bowl game, if not more than one.
Okay, so here we are with January 1st, 1992 on a Wednesday, and nobody's watching it. But here's the first episode of the season, which aired on that Monday. Season 2, Episode 1, They're Writing Songs of Love, but None for Me. Changes are in store for Dwight when Skinner, a free-spirited teen, enters the household. Old friends from college leave the team to Dwight. Skinner, by the way, is played by Giovanni Ribisi. And again, what hasn't he been in?
And I'm going to add another name, and this is a name we mentioned previously. Garrett Graham. Franklin Sherman on The Critic.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and also Panko on Parker Lewis.
Oh, yes.
Mrs. Musso's hard-ass replacement.
Well, I bet you he always lost to Parker Lewis. You know why?
Because
Parker Lewis can't lose.
Of course, he can't lose.
Oh, Greg.
What about if he fought Batman?
No, Parker Lewis beat Batman's ass. You know why? Parker Lewis can't lose.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Hey, I got a question. What would happen if Parker Lewis was in a battle with, let's say, 1,000 Terminator robots? You know who would win?
Parker Lewis.
Yes, and you know why?
Because Parker Lewis can't lose.
Parker Lewis would beat the asses of 1,000 Terminator robots because he can't lose.
Okay. Episode 2, because now they're going to be... I'm going to let you know right now, episodes are going to start becoming more and more Skinner-centric.
Skinner!
Yeah. Episode 2, A Father Makes All the Difference. A family dinner is upset when Skinner introduces the family to his pregnant friend. What?
Oh, no. No.
Do we know who plays the pregnant friend? I'm about to find out here. Carla Gugino.
That Carla Gugino?
Carla Gugino, yeah. The mother from Spy Kids.
The mother from Spy Kids.
And also Zach's older girlfriend from that one episode of Good Morning Miss Bliss.
Oh, that's right. I forgot she was at Good Morning Miss Bliss.
Yeah, as in the special 9th grade episode. Episode 3, Righting a Wrong. When Charlie has a difficult essay to write for school, he copies Gunny's diary. Unfortunately, he forgot to ask permission first. So he's basically copying off of Gunny's diary, and we all know that Gunny used to be very exciting. Now he's kind of a space case. Oh, are you ready for this, Mike?
Oh, you're way ahead of me already, I think. You were going to say who appears on this episode?
Yes.
Oh, just Mrs. J. Moore, or the former Mrs. J. Moore, Nikki Cox.
Yes,
what?
Yeah, Nikki Cox from Unhappily Ever After.
A.K.A.
Also,
the anti-married with children.
Yeah, essentially. And wasn't Nikki Cox married to Bobcat Goldthwait at some point?
She was! I think she was married to him.
Yeah. She appears in this episode.
I just don't know.
Yeah, some things are difficult to wrap your head around. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, wow. Okay. Episode 4, The Moment of Youth. Skinner objects to Dwight's plan to send him to work, but Dwight insists when Skinner's parents don't send him any financial support. Of course, they're archaeologists in South America. Do they have any financial support? Interesting names in this episode. Kristen Datillo and Jennifer McComb, I think they've both done at least one soap opera. I may be wrong on that, but definitely Kristen Datillo. Next episode, it's the first of a 2-parter. Love at First Sighting, Part 1. When Charlie constructs a telescope for his science project by using toilet paper and paper towel rolls, Dwight manages to spy on the girl of his dreams through it. I have to see who the girl of his dreams is played by.
Kelly Rutherford.
What?
You heard me, Kelly Rutherford. Her being Lily Vanderwoodson on Gossip Girl.
Nice.
Yes, so an actual known name there, if you will.
But we're not done with our lovely Erica here. Her name is Erica, by the way, because here comes part 2. Knowing that Skinner and Gunny are already far too interested in Erica, Dwight takes her to a fancy restaurant in Seattle, where it quickly becomes clear that every man in the state of Washington is also interested in Erica.
Wait, what'd you say? Everyone in the state is interested in her?
Everyone in the state of Washington is interested in Erica.
Everybody in the entire state of Washington wants a piece of that.
Yeah.
Everybody in the state of Washington.
Everybody in the state of Washington. Hey, Bill Gates, Howard Phillips, because this would be 1992 and he would still work for Nintendo of America.
Yeah.
A younger Jeff Bezos.